Hello, it's Dr. Kimberlee Mendoza, and this is another episode of Blue Fire Faith. In the past, we've talked about detours, but this time I'm going to talk directly about walls and doors. So often, when we're looking for something, we think an open door is always an answer. But I'm going to show you in this video how that's not always true and how to understand when it is probably God and when it is probably not. Because I think that those are things that we really need to understand. So I'm going to start with a story. I was going through my doctoral program and I was in my third class and I was not doing well. I was failing this class. And I just did not know what I was going to do. I was at that point where I was like, I don't know if I can do this doctoral stuff. I might have to quit. I'm just not smart enough. And I obviously don't understand what the teacher wants. And so I was really struggling. In the midst of that, while I'm praying, God, I need your help. If you really want me to finish this doctoral program, you're going to have to help me somehow. The craziest thing happened. So my college that I was going to was actually in Tennessee, and they were like a virtual university. So the program was actually online and you were like in a cohort. And so you were really connected to the people in your class. And there was some synchronous and asynchronous types of stuff. But our professors were not where we were. They were in other states, if not Tennessee. Well, during this class, while I'm failing it, there was a conference where I was at the time in San Diego. And so my professor of this class and my mentor in my program happened to come to a conference in week 3 of this class that I'm failing and want to go to lunch with me. It's just so God, because I'm like, how is it that the chances of my professor and my mentor coming to a conference in the very week when I need them most? Now, they probably ordered their ticket 6 months before or something, not realizing that God was orchestrating that and that we would go to lunch. And after I had a conversation with the two of them, I completely understood what was expected of me. I aced it from then on. I graduated with a good GPA. So it was that moment in time where God orchestrated what I call God instances, not coincidences, God instances where he aligns everything and he helps you establish and do what you have to do, because God's not going to call you to do something if he doesn't give you the tools to do it. We just have to be praying and open to whatever God is trying to do. So that's an open door. That's God leading you down a path. I think that when you're in God's will, he leads you down a path. Now, let me explain to you when you see that closed door or that wall that you're hitting constantly over and over and over, and you don't understand why things are not happening like the way they're supposed to happen. And my husband and I have come to a conclusion that when those things happen, we stop. And we say, okay, God, what are you telling us no about right here? Let's not push against the wall, because on the other side of that wall could affect us later. So here's a good example of that. So my son and his wife, they had just gotten married and they were looking for a place to live. And so it's just really expensive in San Diego. And so we thought, well, we'll just build a structure on the back of our property that they could have their own entrance and they could live back there. And so we were trying to get a loan. And no matter how much we tried to get this loan, it was like we were hitting wall after wall. And we're like, what is the problem? Like, why can we not get this loan? And then finally, we just said, you know what? We're so sorry. We're not going to be able to do this for you. It's just not going very smoothly. And we've discovered that we need to, not push against walls. So we didn't get it. They ended up living somewhere else. And flash forward 1 year, and I ended up getting a job in another state. And so we needed to sell our home and move to this other state. Had we made that structure and had that loan on our property, we would have not had the equity to buy a home where we were going. And so God knew, because he's in the helicopter, we're in the car, he knew that we were going to need that money and that equity in order to do what we were getting ready to do. And so that's another instance of where a wall is kind of stopped you. Now, sometimes we think an open door is, what we're supposed to be doing. But I think sometimes open doors, we need to trust God with the bigger and the better and the greater. And my 3 things for you are, does whatever you're getting ready to do give you peace? Are you in a place of peace, or are you feeling like something's not right? Does it make sense for your family? Is it going to make your family and you closer to God, to each other? And if not, you need to step back and really evaluate it. Does the path seem clear, or is it like you're constantly hitting a wall the more you try to do something? Because that wall, I've actually experienced that a few times. Just recently, we had a property and we were going to get a loan on it, and we just kept hitting walls. It was like the craziest thing. We're like, why is this so difficult? And we finally said, you know what? It's not working. Let's just not do it. Had we gotten that loan, we would not be able to do what we needed to do in the future. And I won't get into all that, but it's just amazing how God opens doors and closes doors and creates walls when it's necessary. But let me get back to the open door, but not the right door. I have a friend whose husband was trying to get a job, and a door did open, but this door would have been horrible for them. It was like this job would have been weird hours, not very good pay, hard labor, and they both just felt like this is not it. We're going to trust God for something greater and bigger. And so they said no. And as soon as about a couple days later, after they said no, this other job opportunity opened up, and this job was amazing. So he went in for one interview thinking he was going to do something that wasn't that great, but it was going to pay okay, whatever. But what ended up happening was that they looked at his resume and they said, no, we have a much better job for you. And he ended up getting this amazing job, twice as much pay. And so I think we have to really have a spirit of discernment when we're walking through these things on what is right, what is godly, what is not. And I always do the fleece thing, like, God, show me exactly kind of what you want me to do. And I always pray for peace in the situation, because there have been times when I just didn't feel right in my gut. I just knew this wasn't the right move, even though it would have benefited us. And that same thing, like 6 months later, is the right thing. And I've seen a whole bunch of things happen in those 6 months that make sense of why it wasn't the right timing. And so we have to pray for that peace. Ask, does it make sense for us and our family? And then lastly, is it a clear path, or are we hitting walls? Don't push through the walls. You don't want to just, if it's not going smoothly, you need to just stop and say, okay, this must not be the right path. God has something better for me, and trust that. And so I do have scripture, like I always do. I want to give you a scripture that goes with this. You've seen this verse a million times probably, but it's just so good when you think of it in this context. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight, or your paths. We always say it the other way. I don't know why. Psalms 32:8, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye upon you. Psalms 37:23, the steps of the man are established by the Lord when he delights his way. So if you're in prayer and you're believing God for what he's going to do for you, and you really trust him with your future, and you're praying specifically for those 3 things I gave you, I honestly believe that God will answer your prayer in a way that is best for you and your family. If for some reason he takes you into a scenario that seems very odd or weird, I promise you at some point, even that odd or weird situation will make sense. We just do not have the bird's eye view. And so there have been times when my husband and I are taken into some weird situations, and we're like, I do not know why God has us here right now. And then we look back and we're like, okay, that makes perfect sense in that season and in that time. And so everything's a season and time, but we have to trust God, because he really is orchestrating our path, and his path and his burden are light. And so we just have to trust him with that. All right, that's it for me today. God bless you all. You take care. Bye-bye.